Nothing like the smell of burnt oil and betrayal to start your week. I'm Brent Morrison, 41 years old, and I've been fixing cars longer than I've been fixing my life, which isn't saying much, considering the mess I'm standing in right now. My garage sits on the corner of Maple and 3rd in Cleveland's grittiest suburb, where honest work still means something and people pay their bills on time. At least, that's what I thought before I met Lila. Babe, you're being ridiculous, Lila called from the kitchen of our shared apartment above the garage. Her voice had that sing-song quality she used when she was lying through her perfectly white teeth. Rico's just a friend from the gym. Rico! Even his name sounded like a bad cologne commercial. The guy managed Gold's Gym downtown and had the kind of muscles that screamed steroids and insecurity. I'd caught him sniffing around Lila's bar 3 times this month, always with that smirk that said he knew something I didn't. Friends don't send pictures of their abs at midnight, I muttered, wiping my hands on a shop rag that had seen better decades. Tyler Jenkins, my best friend since high school and the only ex-cop I trusted, looked up from the transmission he was rebuilding. You sure about this, Brent? I mean, really sure. Found the screenshots on her tablet yesterday. I pulled out my phone and showed him the evidence. Look at this garbage. Tyler whistled low. The messages were explicit enough to make a sailor blush, but it was the last screenshot that made my blood boil. A picture of my 1967 Mustang Fastback, with the caption, "Selling this beauty for quick cash. My boring fiancé won't even notice until it's gone, LOL. She's selling the Mustang?" Tyler's voice went flat. He knew what that car meant to me. 3 years of restoration, every weekend, every spare dollar. It wasn't just a car. It was my masterpiece. Posted it on Facebook Marketplace an hour ago, I said, trying to keep the rage out of my voice. Asking price is 15 grand. That car's worth 30, easy. I know. The bell above the garage door chimed, and Lila walked in wearing her bartender uniform, black jeans that looked painted on, and a tank top that left nothing to imagination. At 29, she still turned heads, and she knew it. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and her makeup was perfect despite the early hour. "Morning, Tyler," she said, with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Then to me, "Brent, honey, we need to talk." Tyler suddenly found something fascinating about the transmission and kept his head down. "About the car?" I asked. Her smile faltered for just a second. "How did you? Never mind. Yes, about the car. I need money for my bachelorette party in Vegas. The girls are counting on me, and I can't let them down. So you decided to sell my car without asking. It's just sitting there, Brent. You never drive it. Because it's a show car, Lila. A classic. You don't daily drive a restored 67 Fastback." She rolled her eyes. "It's just metal and paint. We can buy another one later." Tyler made a choking sound. "Just metal and paint?" I felt something cold settle in my chest. "That's 3 years of my life, Lila. Every weekend, Oh, please," she interrupted. "You act like it's your child or something. It's creepy." The silence stretched between us like a taut wire. Tyler had stopped pretending to work and was watching us with the careful attention of someone who'd seen domestic disputes go sideways. "Buyer's coming at 3, Lila said finally. "Cash deal. I already gave him the address." I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in months. The woman I'd fallen in love with 2 years ago, the one who'd laughed at my jokes and said she loved watching me work on cars, was gone. In her place stood someone I didn't recognize. "Great," I said quietly. "I'll have the keys ready." She blinked, clearly expecting more of a fight. "Really? Really? Okay then." She turned to go, then paused. "And Brent, don't make this weird. The guy seems nice." After she left, Tyler looked at me with concern. "You okay, man?" I pulled out my phone and started scrolling through my contacts. "Tyler, you still have friends at the department?" "A few. Why?" "Because Lila just made the biggest mistake of her life." I found the number I was looking for. "She doesn't have the title to that car. It's in my name only. Always has been." Tyler's eyes widened. "You're not thinking." "I'm thinking it's time Lila learned what happens when you steal from someone who knows how to use tools." Detective Sarah O'Hara answered on the 3rd ring. "O'Hara, Sarah, it's Brent Morrison. Remember me? You bought that Camaro from me 2 years ago." "Sure, Brent. What's up?" "Don't tell me the engine finally died." "No, the Camaro's fine. I need to report an attempted auto theft." There was a pause. Someone trying to steal from your lot? My fiancée is trying to sell my car without permission. She doesn't have the title, doesn't have my consent, and she's got a buyer coming in 2 hours. Jesus, Brent, that's rough. But if she's your fiancée? We're not married, Sarah. The car is titled in my name only. She has no legal right to sell it. Another paused. You sure you want to do this? I mean, pressing charges against your own fiancé? I watched through the window as Lila strutted down the street toward her job at Murphy's Tavern, probably texting Rico about how easy I was to manipulate. She just sold her last chance at a happy ending, I said. I'll send a unit over at 3. Don't do anything stupid before we get there. Wouldn't dream of it. Tyler was grinning when I hung up. You magnificent bastard. She wants to play games? Fine. But she's playing in my league now. The next 2 hours crawled by. I worked on Mrs. Patterson's Honda, changed oil on 3 different vehicles, and tried to act normal while my world imploded. Around 2:30, neighbors started gathering across the street. Word travels fast in our neighborhood, and everyone knew about my Mustang. At 5 minutes to 3, a red pickup truck pulled up. The driver was exactly what I'd expected. Mid-30s, baseball cap. The kind of guy who knew classic cars and probably had cash burning a hole in his pocket. You Lila's boyfriend? He asked, climbing out of the truck. Something like that. You hear about the Mustang? Hell yes. That's a beautiful machine you got there. Mind if I take a look under the hood? Be my guest. His name was Dave, and he knew his cars. He ran his hands over the Mustang's lines like he was caressing a woman, checked the engine bay with the reverence of a true believer, and asked all the right questions about the restoration. This is worth twice what she's asking, he said finally. I know. Why's she selling so cheap? Before I could answer, Lila appeared with a folder in her hand and Rico trailing behind her like a lovesick puppy. Rico was everything I wasn't, 6'2", spray-tanned, wearing a tank top that showed off his gym-sculpted physique. His black hair was slicked back with enough gel to lubricate a transmission, and his smile was the kind that made decent people want to punch him. You must be Dave, Lila said, turning on the charm. Ready to take this baby home? More than ready. You got the title? Lila's smile flickered. There's a small paperwork issue, but nothing we can't work out. That's when the police cruiser turned the corner. What the hell? Rico stepped forward, his chest puffing out like a rooster. Lila, what's going on? 2 officers got out, Sarah O'Hara and a younger cop I didn't recognize. Sarah looked tired, like she'd rather be anywhere else. Brent Morrison? The younger cop asked. That's me. We understand someone's trying to sell your vehicle without permission. The color drained from Lila's face. Brent, what did you do? What I should have done months ago. I pulled out my phone and started recording. Officers, this is my fiancée, Lila Thompson. She posted my car for sale on Facebook without my permission and arranged this meeting without my knowledge or consent. Is this true, miss? Sarah asked. Lila looked between me and the officers, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. Rico put his hand on her shoulder, which was a mistake. Hey, pig, Rico said to Sarah. Why don't you mind your own business? This is between family. Sarah's expression went arctic. Excuse me? Rico, shut up, Lila hissed. But Rico was on a roll. These people are engaged. She's got every right to sell his stuff. Actually, Sarah said, pulling out her notepad, she doesn't. The vehicle is titled solely in Mr. Morrison's name. Miss Thompson has no legal authority to sell it. Dave, the potential buyer, started backing toward his truck. Look, folks, I don't want any trouble. No trouble for you, Dave, I said. Sorry you wasted the trip. Brent, please, Lila said, tears starting to form. Can we talk about this privately? Like you talked to me privately before posting my car online? Rico stepped closer to me, his muscles tensing. You're making a big mistake, old man. The only mistake I made was trusting a bartender who can't keep her hands off the customers. That hit home. Rico's face went red, and for a second I thought he might take a swing. But Tyler had moved up behind me, and Sarah was watching everything with cop eyes. Miss Thompson, Sarah said, I need to see some identification. This is ridiculous, Lila said, but she pulled out her license. You're under arrest for attempted grand theft auto, Sarah said, reaching for her handcuffs. You have the right to remain silent. I'd always wondered what it would be like to see my fiancé in handcuffs. But this wasn't what I'd imagined. The neighbors were recording everything on their phones, and I could already see the Facebook posts forming. Local woman arrested for trying to steal fiancé's car. Brent, don't do this, Lila pleaded as Sarah cuffed her. I'm sorry, okay? I made a mistake. You made a choice, I said. Now you get to live with it. Rico was practically vibrating with rage. This isn't over, Morrison. You're right, I said, meeting his eyes. It's not. As they loaded Lila into the back of the cruiser, she looked at me through the window with an expression I'd never seen before. Pure hatred. Rico climbed into his Jeep and followed the police car, probably already planning her bail. Dave shook his head and drove away. Tyler clapped me on the shoulder. Well, that was something. That was just the opening act. The video went viral by dinner time. Mrs. Patterson from next door had live-streamed the whole arrest on Facebook, complete with commentary. That's what you get for messing with Brent's car. Everyone knows you don't touch a man's Mustang. Within hours, it had been shared 300 times and counting. I was in my apartment, eating a microwave dinner and watching the comments roll in, when my phone rang. Brent, it's Murphy. Tom Murphy owned the tavern where Lila worked. We need to talk. About Lila not working here anymore. I can't have someone with a theft arrest on my payroll. Liquor commission would have my ass. I almost felt bad. Almost. That's rough, Tom. Yeah, well, she should have thought about that before she decided to steal cars. Anyway, I thought you should know. After he hung up, I poured myself a beer and sat in my recliner, looking out the window at the Mustang. It sat in the garage bay like a faithful dog, chrome gleaming under the fluorescent lights. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You made a big mistake today. We're not done. Rico, I'd been expecting this. I was still staring at the phone when Tyler knocked on my door. Saw the news, he said, holding up his phone. You're famous. 15 minutes of fame I could have done without. Bullshit. You're loving this. He grabbed a beer from my fridge without asking. So what's the plan? Plan? Come on, Brent. I know you. You didn't just have her arrested for the hell of it. You're planning something. He was right, of course. Tyler had known me since we were 17. He could read me like a repair manual. Rico thinks he can intimidate me, I said. And he's about to learn that threatening a mechanic is like threatening someone who knows exactly how to make your life fall apart. Tyler grinned. Now we're talking. The next morning, Rico showed up at my garage. He'd bailed Lila out the night before, and from the look on his face, she'd been filling his head with poison. Morrison, he called from the sidewalk. Get out here. I was under the hood of a Chevy Silverado, but I could hear the rage in his voice. Tyler was at the coffee shop across the street, but he'd be back soon. Something I can help you with, Rico? I called without looking up. You know damn well what you can help me with. You had Lila arrested. Lila had herself arrested. I just made sure the law knew what she was doing. Rico walked into the garage, his footsteps echoing off the concrete. She's devastated, man. Lost her job, her reputation, all over some stupid car. Now I looked up. Rico was wearing another tank top, this one advertising his gym. His arms were crossed, showing off biceps that probably cost him a fortune in supplements. Funny thing about reputations, I said, wiping my hands on a rag. They're usually based on the things you actually do. She made a mistake. She made a choice. There's a difference. Rico stepped closer, trying to use his size to intimidate me. You need to drop the charges, or what? Or things might start happening to your business. Accidents, vandalism. You know how it is in this neighborhood. I set down my wrench and gave Rico my full attention. Are you threatening me? I'm explaining reality. Here's some reality for you, Rico. I pulled out my phone and showed him the screen. I've been recording this conversation since you walked in. Threatening someone's business is extortion in Ohio. That's a felony. Rico's face went white, then red. You son of a... Careful, Tyler's voice came from behind him. Wouldn't want to add assault to the list. Rico spun around to find Tyler standing in the doorway, coffee in one hand, the other resting casually on his belt where he used to keep his service weapon. This is between me and Morrison, Rico said. Not anymore, Tyler replied. See, Brent's my friend, and I don't like it when people threaten my friends. Rico looked between us, calculating odds. 2 against 1, in our territory, with everything recorded. Even his steroid-addled brain could do that math. This isn't over, he said, backing toward the door. You keep saying that, I replied. But so far, you haven't done anything but run your mouth. After Rico left, Tyler shook his head. Guy's dumber than he looks. That's what I'm counting on. That afternoon, I got a call from Maddie. Lila's best friend, and the biggest gossip in a 3-block radius. Brent, honey, we need to talk. About what, Maddie? About what you did to Lila. That was cold, even for you. Cold. She tried to steal my car. She needed money. You could have just given it to her. I almost laughed. Maddie, did you know about Rico? Silence. You did know. How long? Brent, how long, Maddie? 3 months, she said quietly. But it wasn't serious. She was just having fun. Fun, right. I could feel the anger building again. What else do you know? Nothing. Maddie, okay. They've been running some kind of scam at the bars downtown, taking pictures of married guys with other women, then asking for money to keep quiet. But Lila was going to stop. She told me she was going to stop. Blackmail, of course. Thanks for the heads up, Maddie. Brent, wait. I hung up and immediately called Tyler. We need to talk, I said. And bring your camera. Tyler arrived an hour later with a digital camera and a grin that meant trouble. Blackmail, huh? He said. That's a new low, even for them. Maddie says they've been working the downtown bars, taking compromising photos, then shaking people down. That's organized extortion, federal charges if they're using the internet. Tyler's cop instincts were kicking in. We need evidence. I might know where to get it. Murphy's Tavern had security cameras, but more importantly, it had Big Eddie behind the bar. Eddie weighed 300 pounds, had arms like tree trunks, and owed me for fixing his Harley last summer. Eddie, I said, sliding onto a bar stool. I need a favor. Heard about Lila, Eddie said, polishing a glass. Tough break, man. Not as tough as what I'm about to tell you. I explained about the blackmail scheme. Eddie's face got darker with each detail. Those bastards, he growled. I knew something was off when Rico started hanging around here. Always had his phone out, always watching the customers. You see anything specific? Better than that. Eddie pulled out his own phone. I recorded Rico bragging about it last week. Drunk asshole thought he was impressing some college girl. The video was gold. Rico, clearly intoxicated, describing how they'd photograph married men with women who weren't their wives, then demand payment for their silence. He even mentioned specific victims and amounts. Eddie, you beautiful bastard, Tyler said. This is enough to put them both away. Not yet, I said. First, we make sure everyone knows what kind of people they really are. That night, someone slashed all 4 tires on my truck and spray-painted snitch across my garage door. The security cameras I'd installed after Tyler's warning caught everything. Rico and 2 guys I didn't recognize, working quickly but not quietly enough. Amateurs, Tyler said, watching the footage. Look at this idiot, he's not even wearing gloves. Good, makes our job easier. I called the police, filed a report, and sent copies of the video to Sarah O'Hara. Then I got to work on my real plan. Rico's pride and joy was a custom Jeep Wrangler, lifted, modified, probably worth 40 grand. He parked it at the gym every day and treated it like a shrine. The next morning, I paid the gym a visit. Help you with something? The desk clerk asked. Looking for Rico. Need to talk to him about my fiancé. He's in the back office. I found Rico doing paperwork, still wearing a tank top despite the air conditioning. What do you want, Morrison? To make you a deal. He looked up, suspicious. What kind of deal? You leave me alone. I don't press charges for the vandalism. Rico laughed. You can't prove anything. I pulled out my phone and showed him the security footage. His face went white. The funny thing about cameras, I said. They see everything. What do you want? I want you to stay away from my business, my property, and my life. In return, I'll consider this a misunderstanding between neighbors. Rico stared at the phone screen, watching himself commit multiple felonies. Fine, deal, good. Oh, and Rico, nice Jeep you got out there. Be a shame if something happened to it. I left him sitting there, probably wondering if I was bluffing. I wasn't. That evening, Tyler and I sat in my apartment, planning our next move. The blackmail evidence goes to the FBI tomorrow, Tyler said. They'll want to interview victims, build a case. How long before arrests? Week, maybe 2. Federal cases move slow, but they move sure. My phone rang. Lila, Brent, please, we need to talk. Nothing to talk about, Lila. Rico told me what you said, about his Jeep. Don't do anything stupid, like selling someone's car without permission. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry about everything. The car, Rico, all of it. Can't we work this out? I looked out the window at Rico's Jeep, parked across the street. He was watching my building from the driver's seat, probably hoping to catch me in the act of something. Lila, you made your choice. Now you get to live with the consequences. What consequences? What are you planning? Nothing you don't deserve. I hung up and turned to Tyler. Ready for some late-night mechanical work? Tyler grinned. What did you have in mind? The power went out at 11:47 p.m. I was in my garage, working by battery-powered LED lights, when the neighborhood went dark. Through the windows, I could see the whole block was affected. Street lights, house lights, everything. Convenient, Tyler muttered from his position by the back door. Too convenient. I checked the security monitors. The cameras were running on battery backup, and they showed 3 figures moving through the alley behind my building. Rico had brought friends. You called it? Tyler said, pulling out his phone. Should I call for backup? Not yet. Let's see what they're planning. What they were planning, apparently, was amateur hour. Rico and his 2 buddies, muscle-bound gym rats who probably couldn't spell felony, were trying to break into my garage through the back door. They had a crowbar and what looked like a baseball bat, but no real plan beyond smash things and hope for the best. Idiots, Tyler whispered. They're making enough noise to wake the dead. I'd spent the afternoon preparing for exactly this scenario. The garage was rigged with more traps than a Home Alone movie. Oil slicks by the doors, air compressor hoses ready to deploy, and the hydraulic lift positioned just right. The back door gave way with a splintering crash. Morrison, Rico called into the darkness. Come out here and take your medicine like a man. I hit the lights. The sudden illumination blinded all 3 of them, and Rico walked straight into the oil slick I'd spread by the door. His feet went out from under him, and he hit the concrete hard enough to knock the wind out of his lungs. Surprise, I said from behind the Mustang. Thug number 1, a guy with arms like tree trunks and a brain like a walnut, swung his baseball bat at the nearest target, which happened to be Mrs. Patterson's Honda. The bat bounced off the reinforced windows I'd installed after the last break-in attempt. Bulletproof glass, I explained. Learned that trick from a cop friend. Evening, gentlemen. Lovely night for a felony, isn't it? Rico struggled to his feet, slipping on the oil. You think you're smart, Morrison? You think this is over? I think you're trespassing on private property with weapons, which makes this a home invasion. I pulled out my phone. Smile for the camera, boys. Thug number 2 tried to rush me, but I hit the air compressor release. A blast of compressed air caught him in the chest and sent him stumbling backward into the hydraulic lift controls. The lift activated with a mechanical whir, catching his shirt and lifting him 3 feet off the ground. Help! He yelled, dangling like a scarecrow. Oops, I said. Guess you shouldn't touch things that don't belong to you. Rico was back on his feet, rage overcoming common sense. I'm going to kill you, Morrison. No, Tyler said, stepping between us. You're not. The sound of sirens cut through the night air. Someone had called the police. Probably Mrs. Patterson, who had a direct line to 911 and the reflexes of a neighborhood watch commander. Shit, Rico said, looking toward the street. Yeah, I agreed. Shit. Sarah O'Hara was the first officer through the door, followed by 2 uniforms I didn't recognize. She took in the scene. 3 intruders, 1 dangling from a hydraulic lift, oil everywhere, and me standing calmly beside my Mustang. Jesus Christ, Brent, she said. What happened here? Home invasion, I replied. These gentlemen broke down my back door and entered my property with weapons. I defended myself. With a car lift? With whatever was handy. Rico tried to play the victim. He's crazy. He's been harassing us all week. Sarah looked at him with the expression cops reserve for people who insult their intelligence. You're covered in motor oil, holding a crowbar, and your buddy is hanging from industrial equipment. Want to try that story again? While the uniforms arrested Rico and his friends, Sarah pulled me aside. This has got to stop, Brent. I mean it. What has to stop? Me defending my property? You know what I mean. This war between you and Rico. Someone's going to get hurt. Someone already got hurt. Me. When my fiancé decided to steal my car and run off with Captain Steroids over there. Sarah sighed. I get it, I do. But this vigilante stuff. I haven't done anything illegal, Sarah. Every action I've taken has been within my rights as a property owner and citizen. What about Rico's Jeep? I blinked innocently. What about it? She stared at me for a long moment, then shook her head. Just try not to kill anyone, okay? After the police left with Rico and his friends, Tyler and I sat in the garage, drinking beer and watching the security footage. That was beautiful, Tyler said. The air compressor thing was inspired. 3 years of dealing with break-ins teaches you a few things. So what's next? I looked at my phone, where 17 missed calls from Lila were waiting. Now we end this. The next morning, Lila was waiting outside my garage when I opened up. She looked like she hadn't slept, hair disheveled, makeup smeared, wearing the same clothes from yesterday. "Brent, please," she said. "Rico's in jail. His friends are in jail. Isn't that enough? Enough for what? Enough revenge. Enough payback. Enough of this insanity." I opened the garage bay and started my morning routine. Coffee, check the schedule, review the security footage from overnight. "You think this is about revenge?" I asked. "Isn't it?" "No, Lila. This is about consequences. You stole from me. Rico threatened me. You both got exactly what you deserved. I never meant for it to go this far. You meant to steal my car and run off to Vegas with your boyfriend. Everything else is just the bill coming due." She started crying then. Real tears, not the crocodile variety she used to get her way. "I made a mistake," she sobbed. "I know I made a mistake. But I love you, Brent. I've always loved you." Funny way of showing it. "Let me make it up to you. Let me fix this." I looked at her, really looked at her, and felt nothing. The woman I'd fallen in love with was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize and couldn't trust. "There's nothing to fix, Lila. We're done." "Don't say that. Please don't say that." "I'm saying it. We're done. The engagement is over. I want you out of the apartment by Friday." She stared at me with a mixture of shock and desperation. "Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore." Thursday night, Lila tried to steal the Mustang one last time. I was expecting it, of course. Tyler and I had been taking shifts watching the garage, and the security cameras were recording everything. But I wanted to catch her in the act, wanted the whole neighborhood to see what kind of person she really was. She came at 3 a.m., probably figuring I'd be asleep. She had a spare key I'd forgotten about, and a desperate plan that might have worked if I was anyone else. But I'm not anyone else. I'm a mechanic who spent the last week planning for exactly this scenario. The Mustang started normally. I hadn't sabotaged the engine. But when Lila put it in drive and hit the gas, several things happened at once. First, the dye pack I'd hidden under the seat exploded, covering her in bright red paint that would take weeks to wash off. Second, the glitter bomb I'd rigged to the transmission triggered, filling the car's interior with sparkles that would never completely disappear. Third, the air horn I'd wired to the ignition system activated, blasting a sound loud enough to wake the entire block. Lila screamed, tried to get out of the car, and slipped on the paint that was now covering everything. She hit the ground hard, covered head to toe in red dye and glitter, looking like a demented Christmas decoration. The neighbors came running. Mrs. Patterson was first, followed by the Johnsons from next door, then half the block. Everyone had their phones out, recording Lila's humiliation for posterity. "Help me," Lila cried, trying to stand up and slipping again. "Someone help me." "Help you what?" Mrs. Patterson asked. "Steal more cars?" That's when Rico showed up. He'd made bail that morning, and apparently decided that threatening me in front of a crowd of witnesses was a brilliant idea. He pushed through the gathered neighbors like a man possessed, his face twisted with rage. "Morrison!" he screamed. "What did you do to her?" "Nothing she didn't do to herself," I replied calmly. Rico helped Lila to her feet, both of them now covered in red paint. "You're going to pay for this, old man. I'm going to end you." "With what?" Tyler asked, stepping out of the crowd. "Your sparkling personality?" "I don't need personality to kick your ass." "Maybe not," I said. "But you might need a lawyer." I held up my phone, showing the video I'd been recording. "Assault threats, trespassing, attempted theft. That's 3 more felonies, Rico. How many strikes does Ohio allow?" Rico's face went white as he realized what I'd trapped him into. Again. "You set us up," Lila said, paint dripping from her hair. "You set yourselves up. I just provided the stage." That's when Sarah O'Hara arrived, followed by 2 patrol cars. Someone had called 911 about the noise, and now the cavalry was here to witness the grand finale. "Let me guess," Sarah said, looking at the scene. "More self-defense? More stupid criminals," I corrected. "She tried to steal my car. Again. He threatened me. Again. I documented everything. Again." Sarah looked at Lila, covered in paint and glitter, then at Rico, who was backing away from the crowd. "Miss Thompson," she said, "you're under arrest. Again." "This is entrapment," Lila screamed. "This is justice," Mrs. Patterson called from the crowd. As Sarah cuffed Lila for the second time in a week, Rico made his move. He rushed at me with his fists raised, probably figuring he had nothing left to lose. He was wrong. Tyler caught him halfway, spinning him around and slamming him face first into the side of my garage. The crowd cheered as Rico hit the ground. his nose bleeding and his pride shattered. "Stay down," Tyler advised. "You've embarrassed yourself enough for one night." But Rico wasn't done. He struggled to his feet, wiping blood from his nose, and pointed at me with a shaking finger. "You think you won?" he said. "You think this is over?" "I think you're about to get arrested again," I replied. "I'll be back. I'll keep coming back until I destroy everything you care about." That's when I smiled, really smiled, for the first time in weeks. "Rico," I said, "there's something you should know." I pulled out a different phone, one I'd been carrying all week, and hit play on a video file. Rico's voice filled the night air, clear as a bell. "We photograph married guys with other women, then ask for money to keep quiet. I made 15 grand last month alone." The crowd went silent. "That's you," I continued, "confessing to federal extortion charges. The FBI has had this recording for 3 days. They've been building a case against you and Leela all week." Rico's face went from red to white to green. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" That's when the unmarked sedan pulled up, and 2 agents in dark suits got out. "Ricardo Vance?" the first agent asked. "Yeah, FBI. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit extortion, wire fraud, and racketeering." The crowd erupted in cheers as they cuffed Rico and read him his rights. Lila was crying, Rico was cursing, and I was standing in the middle of it all, feeling like the weight of the world had been lifted from my shoulders. "How long have you been planning this?" Tyler asked. "Since the moment she posted my car online," I replied. "And the FBI?" "Since Maddie told me about the blackmail scheme. I called them Tuesday morning." Sarah shook her head in amazement. "You orchestrated this whole thing." "I just gave them enough rope to hang themselves." As the federal agents loaded Rico into their sedan and the local police took Lila away in their cruiser, the crowd began to disperse. Mrs. Patterson patted me on the shoulder. "Good for you, Brent," she said. "That girl never deserved you." "Thanks, Mrs. Patterson." Tyler helped me clean the paint off the Mustang while the tow truck hauled away Rico's Jeep. Evidence in a federal case now. "So what's next?" he asked. I looked around at my garage, my neighborhood, my life. Everything was exactly where it should be. Next, I get back to work, fix some cars, live my life, find someone who appreciates what I do instead of trying to steal it. Sounds boring. Sounds perfect. The sun was coming up over Cleveland, painting the sky in shades of gold and red. My Mustang sat in the garage bay, chrome gleaming, engine purring, ready for whatever came next. I'd won. Not just the war with Lila and Rico, but something bigger. I'd won back my self-respect, my peace of mind, and my faith that good people still existed in the world. The last gear had finally clicked into place.